I want to make a video about trees. Well, woods and forests. I've been wanting to do this one for ages, and I was originally going to do it as a miniatures video, and I was going to show loads of alternative ways of doing forests and stuff, and it comes from the idea of, well, you know, when you make a map for a world, if you're doing a sandbox campaign, you often start with a map, and there are certain features you'll always put on it. Coasts, plains, deserts, forests and mountains. And that's great, you know, and this is following the Tolkien tradition of having a world and then throwing down your characters into it and having them travel across it and stuff, and that's great. But, you know, Tolkien made some of his mountains living golem things, not golem as in golem, but, you know, animate, intelligent storm giant, mountain giant things. Yes, his mountains were giants, that's where I was going. There's a whole sequence in The Hobbit that you really have to see in 3D to appreciate at all, otherwise it's mostly just some small people on the side of a hill. Anyway, the point is that he made his mountains really varied, and he actually had character to his woods as well. You know, Mirkwood got up and killed an orc army as they retreated from Helm's Deep, which you can see in the extended edition of Lord of the Rings, but in the cinema release they didn't show that at all. And he had the tree ents and stuff, and he had that whole thing about, you know, feeding the forest. Anyway, coming away from Tolkien for the moment. Actually, no, go back to it. He also had, which was it Mirkwood? Yeah, Mirkwood was the one with the spiders and stuff. His forests were themed differently. They had character. That's the important point that I wanted to make. That sometimes when we make a map on the world, and we're using these tools, especially if we're using a tool, a map making tool such as Incarnate, but sometimes we put things on the world that we don't, you know, we just think of, right, that's a forest, and that's all there is to it. Because it's just, there's a forest there. But every location should have some personality to it, otherwise it's not really a location. So, you know, it's just, it's a place. If you're going to have adventurers go somewhere in your map, and one hopes by the end of the campaign they've explored the majority of it, then all of those places should have character. They should be locations. They should have something about them that defines them and makes them a living part of the world. And, you know, we do that in a number of ways, but particularly I want to talk about forests today, and I use Tolkien as an example and as the premise for this, but the forest can be made of more than just trees. So sorry. I've been making a lot of videos in a row and I've been talking a long time, and I should probably get a drink before the next one. Forests can be more than trees. You could make a forest out of mushrooms. I've mentioned this in many of my videos before, but I had a game where I had a forest of statues. You can make a forest out of anything. That, you know, anything. It's a sea of something. What a forest is, it's an ecosystem. And we often forget that as well. We put trees down as we think, oh yeah, there's trees. And then if the players want to get a meal, then, oh yeah, I suppose it's trees. There could be a squirrel if you're a rabbit or something that you catch, or maybe a fox or something if you pass a good survival roll. But that's not personality. For a place to have personality, it needs to have some history. It needs something unique about it. You know, Mirkwood spiders, for example, and then all came from Dol Guldur with the necromancer and stuff, and the contamination of the forest. But it doesn't need to be that. But it could be that, you know, what lives in this forest. Within your map, there will be a number of empires, most likely, or civilizations or cultures. You put these things on your map, and those things are a power block, right? So within their territory they are powerful. They have armies that they can go out and deal with anyone who disagrees with them. That's how they've established themselves. It's basically a protection racket. You pay your taxes to the king, king has an army, and if you don't pay them, he sends the army round and drags you off to a jail. It's a protection racket. And that protection racket isn't total. There will be areas within that realm where the control of the king and the king's men is weakened. Maybe it's a forest, maybe it's a mountain range, it's something within that territory where that king is not absolute, because there's something else powerful, some dark, ancient evil or power, where the troops don't go. Otherwise, why does this realm even need adventurers? But beyond that, in the borders between your empires, maybe the reason that there are borders is because some powerful creature or entity exists between these two realms that buffers them. Otherwise, why has that empire not swept through? And so, what is this dark ancient power? Well, that's the thing that gives the place character. Whether the borders between realms are mountain ranges or forests, or whether it's a pocket within a realm, whatever your location, in a D&D-esque, high fantasy, Tolkien-esque world, that those powerful creatures give each location its character. Smaug, for example, dominated the Lonely Mountain and was a shadow hanging over the people of Dale. But Dale had character as a location. It was this city on a lake. It had history. And those are the things we need to put into the locations on our map. Otherwise they're just locations. They're places. They're not... a location needs character. I got my words the wrong way back there, just ignore that bit. So a location needs character and personality. It wants history. It needs a story behind it. It needs the things that distinguish it from other places in your world. Takes me ages to find the stop button.